Okay, good. One more yet to join. Right. So we had yielding stress, we had thermal stress, right? If it is any mechanical component which is running for long, it will create thermal stress as well. You may have to take into account this. And then the concentration points, these are all given by different values that we derive, right? And then ultimately you end up with Young's modulus. You can calculate the Young's modulus, right? Young's modulus you can obtain using the stress and strain. And then normal strain we learn in that Poisson ratio. What is Poisson ratio? Anybody? Poisson's ratio. What is the definition, or where you use this for designing Poisson's ratio? Anybody? Same goes to thermal. It is also having a thermal strain, right? And then strain from multi-axial loads, right? Now we study only uniaxial. Can also be calculated at multi-axial load. Same thing, the same direction you find original, the ratio between origin change in length to original length, and you obtain strain in respective direction. Come and answer me, what is Poisson ratio? What's the definition and what's the application of Poisson ratio? Quickly review this one. This factor is used for designing. Don't recall, please. So it gives you the idea about how the compression member, especially how the member, the lateral dimension, how the compression member, what is the ratio of the member in compression. When it is compressed, how the cross section is behaving, or lateral dimensions. This is actually a lateral. How the lateral dimension is responding, whether it's increasing or decreasing. Mostly it is used in compression, designing the compression members. This helps to design the compression member, reflecting on the how the lateral, the response of the member in a lateral direction is determined by Poisson ratio. And then the shear stress, shear strain, shear modulus also we did, right? What is the notation you use for shear modulus? Shear modulus. Shear stress is by tau, right? Shear modulus. This is all important because although I give the equation, you should know what is it. Just recall the torsion formula. In that we have shear modulus, polar moment of inertia. We also use polar moment of inertia. What is the notation for polar moment of inertia? You please unmute and say polar moment of inertia. Recall the torsion formula. Remember? Yeah. So remember those things. Like I say, a little bit remembrance is required, although we give the formula to you, right? Then shaft torque, shear stress, and angle. These are the three things you will be determining. Either one will be given, you need to find the other, and so on, right? And then bolt and riveted joints. Put together, these two can be applied in cases like bolts, rivets, links, right? We saw some calculations on links, how the links are joined by bolts and then to the main frame, main beam. And we also calculated how is the shearing, how is the factor of safety determined for these designing links and beams, links which are connected to the beams or any frames. And this part actually your old one, statics, you have to know what is the moment of inertia. We didn't do this, right? These are all the things that is the old one you have already done, and this one is a future one, column buckling we are going to have based on this. Now comes the beams reaction. We are at this point, beam reactions. You should now calculate what is the beam reaction, what is the support reaction, right? Beam reaction is the support reaction. No support, no reaction at all. It is tend to yield, tend to rotate or bend or deflect, right? So today's lessons will be on beam reactions, shear diagram, followed by moment diagram, and how these stresses are used. Sometimes you are given the support, you have to find the moment, types of loading, and then sometimes the yielding stress will be given, then vice versa. Stress is given, you have to find the moment, a reaction, or reactions are given to find others. There is a lengthy equation, fluctual formula, what is called fluctual formula, which will be governing this whole topic. Fluctual formula or bending stress formula. That will be covering all these factors. There is a long formula which we derive usually that will cover all these factors: bending moment, strength, and then what else? And then the centroid and so on, right? It will decide. You can have based on the equations and the factors given to you or known to you, or you have already experimental result. If you go to the site, you are given a frame structure, right? Workshop structure, ask you to design. Either you know the grade, you start from the known grade. Steel structure grade is, go to the code, check the moment of inertia, your work starts from there. Once you know the moment of inertia and you know the support condition, right? It must be fixed or pin or bolted. Use this support condition, take the frame out and start analyzing, right? Using this formula. Come on here, this part I will do later. Only we are here now. We are going to do this part today to study under this chapter 4. Come on, what is a beam? There are many big definitions here. Let me explain here first what is a beam. You see here, sample beam is given to you, simply supported. It is known as simply supported. You can always imagine, we used to give this example, bench, garden bench. If you go to park or garden, you can see a bench, right, where people can sit here, people can sit here, right? This is a good example of a simply supported. No fixity here, just kept on it. It's as though a beam is kept on the support, something like this. A beam is kept on this. Pin also relatively like this. Pin hewed means a glue. It is a glue is attached, or pin or this type. Can be roller, right? They put it as a roller, a ball which can roll. So all these types can be called as simply supported. There is a different response by the support conditions, right? And it tend to rotate, can rotate because it's free to rotate. And then the another type, it is fixed here. There is another type of beam we can see fixed at one end. Rotation is restricted, right? Rotation is restricted. Then the beam has a role to play, isn't it? Last case, the beam is free to rotate in certain direction. In this case, also beam can rotate perpendicular to the direction. If not here, perpendicular to the slide, it can move. In this case, unlike this, in this case, it cannot rotate, and this end is free. It can rotate, right? So having some deflection automatically. We'll see what are the properties governing. Another beam is like this. It's like here it is simply supported. It's simply supported or a roller type. A small portion is overhanging. So you should all practice these three types of questions for your assessments. These three types of beams with their different types of loading, right? It may be point load. We'll see one by one. Point load or concentrated load, or triangular load, or different. I mean, partially point load and partially distributed load, and so on. Let's see one by one. So overhanging beam, mostly it is constructed in a portico, right? Portico beam, ventilator, the one sunshade in construction, portico beam, and then in for aesthetic, improving aesthetic, they will extend it and they may have some gardening or recreational sit out here or a gardening here. All this loading will cause this beam to bend, but it's a very clever design by engineers to have this type of overhanging with the overcoming load. We will see how it is designed and what are the reactions. I already posted the slide in the morning. We always check the slides before, after 10 o'clock of the day, okay? I try to post it before 10 so that you have time to download, right? Beams. What are all the beams? Members that are slender and support loadings that are applied perpendicular to their longitudinal axis. This is very important. See, the beam is, I don't know, thank God I can write. So the beam is longer, number one, longer in x direction, and the loading is perpendicular to the cross section. That is important. Longer in cross section, right? Longer in the x direction, say x direction, loaded in the perpendicular direction. Last time it was axially loaded, right? This time it is perpendicular direction. It is not loaded in this direction. It is loaded perpendicular. Then it is called as a beam. Okay. When the loading is in a perpendicular direction or perpendicular to the or parallel to the cross section, right? You see the cross section there, parallel to the cross section, parallel to the cross section, but perpendicular to the longitudinal section. Then it is called as a beam. Or if any member is longer in one direction compared to other two directions, right? You draw the cross section and three-dimensional view. Three-dimensional view will give you the dimensions like this, isn't it? So this one, other two dimension, 1 and 2. Compared to other two cross-sectional dimension, the vertical one, the length one, right? Lengthwise it is longer, then it is also called as beam. Right. In general, beams are long straight bars having constant cross-sectional area, mostly constant cross-sectional area, not much varying unless there is a requirement or the supplies are like that. They only supply up to today, they supply only rectangular beams. Tomorrow also square beams. Then you need to customize or do some kind of joint work so that it will be continued with square beams tomorrow onwards in the construction. Because of the applied loadings, beams develop an internal shear force. You see here it's an internal, all are internal, where it is along the cross section. You see, along the cross section, completely inside. Internal shear force and bending moment that in general vary from point to point along the axis of the beam. So shear force is developed, right? We will see there are interesting diagrams and learnings we are going to have. And this is going to explain how the distribution is, whether the distribution is linear, quadratic, parabolic, right? Based on this distribution, you can design your member. That is most important. That is why you bother about what happens in the cross section. I don't stop here just by an uniaxial loading or axial loading. Other members are also supported or loaded by a cross, right? What happens for the given load? Whether it is bending linearly or in a parabolic way. You know what is parabolic, quadratic and all, right? The curves, different types of curves. If it is linear, it's a straight line. Parabolic means the parabolic like this. If this is parabolic and the distribution is parabolic, what type of parabolic it is? Is it a quadratic, cubical, exponential, power to something, n? All these things are important for engineers to design a proper section. That is why we are analyzing for the beam. In order to properly design a beam, it therefore becomes necessary to determine the maximum. Yeah. In addition to see the distribution, you must know the peak points. See, when I was working at site as field engineer in construction, my engineer will come and he will, when the structure is given to him, will just take the crucial point only. He will take this salient beam, analyze for the maximum, right? If it is a residential 1-story, 2-story, still okay. But if it is a frame analysis, you have to do the whole frame analysis. You cannot just take a typical beam and analyze it. But when you take a crucial beam, it is already accounting for all others. Only thing you are doing over design. So you must know where is the maximum shear and maximum bending moment. It comes out by experience, right? Otherwise, you have to analyze and find. If it is a symmetric members, it's even worse. You really have to go for a proper analysis of or do one by one, beam by beam, beam 1, 2, 3. You have to number it, node number, member number, load cases, different load cases you have tried. It is going to be a lengthy job or voluminous work for any structural analysis, right? In addition to knowing the distribution, you should know what is the maximum shear and bending moment. This is also part of your design and analysis, right? We will see how we are going to find out. There are interesting method we can find quickly from the data. Once you get this distribution, you can easily find the values. That is why we need this distribution, right? One way to do this is to express f and m as functions of their arbitrary positions. Yeah, to find this, sometimes it is not linear, always linear, or always like this, following an equation. Some asymmetric and nonlinear proportions are not able to track. In that case, you can take a small area and then integrate over the limits. That is also possible. Let's see how we are going to do that. I will give some examples. With that you are able to understand. These shear and bending moment functions can be plotted and represented graphically called shear moment diagram. Yeah, all the diagrams that you are plotting in shear force and bending moment diagrams are called as graphical analysis. Accordingly, you can take the plus and minus. We'll see there is a norm should be followed for easy understanding and production in your exams or in your job place. So let's follow those norms to develop your drawings. In order to formulate shear force and bending moment in terms of x, we must choose the origin and positive direction for x. Although the choice is arbitrary, most often the origin is located at the left end. Start from left end. You can start from any one end, and then positive direction is to the right. Like graph, first quadrant is always positive, right? So if it is one dimension, take the left hand as a 0 or proceed with increasing values on the right. If two dimension, take the only 2, you can take the other direction, perpendicular direction as the y. If it is 3, take the horizontal direction as xy and the vertical one as xy plane. On top you have the z direction. See, one dimension means like this. One dimension, when you analyze one dimension, you take like this, one dimension. Two dimension, if you are analyzing only two dimension, I'm talking, then take like this. Three dimension, you take the plane, right? The plane is important. The plane as your x and y. Plane as x and y, and the vertical as z direction. Easy for analysis. We'll do this part in the chapter 5, I think chapter 6, and this one in torsion others we will doing. Now let's do this one and this one in chapter 4. Okay, where we are. In general, the internal shear and moment functions, that is done already, right? Discontinuous at points, yeah. In general, the internal shear and moment functions of x will be discontinuous, or the slope will be discontinuous at points where a distributed load changes or where the concentrated force or couple moments are applied. Right, wherever there's a shear force 0, bending moment will be maximum. That is the only thing we can understand from this line. The crossing point, the changeover or crossing point, based the graphical analysis gives you to pick the point directly from the graph. Wherever the shear force is becoming 0, bending moment will be maximum, vice versa. See here, there is a bending failure showing the beam, right? Beam initially it was supporting this bench, right? This bench or table and working table was supported by this beam and these columns. See, these columns are supporting. Due to design or due to aesthetic, or due to convenience or availability, they made it like this to have one beam here and one beam here, a cross beam, another support like these, two rods supported by another bent rod, right? So maybe prolonged loading or due to load which is increased over this limit, automatically joint failure, the joint has broken. It is called a type of failure due to bending. It's already bent. We don't, although it is not a breaking, right? The support condition already broken, right? The support is already broken. That's a type of a failure. It can be one type of failure. Here, how do we consider these bending moments? How do we calculate? Assume this one, just take this weightlifting. These weights are the loads, overcoming loads, right? If you keep on the floor, these two will be applying load at that point where it is kept, right? Imagine this is some tons, it's already given, right? 400 newtons. And then normally if this is supported, at some points, maybe at the ends or here, automatically there will be a reaction created, right? See, this gentleman is lifting up, right? Lifting up, that means what? He is reacting in opposite direction to the load induced gravity by gravity downward. The load is acting downward due to gravity. but he is acting in opposite direction by means of lifting it up. So action and reaction, or vice versa. He lift it up, applying an action. There is a reaction due to this weight, which is acting downward. You see the magnitudes 400, 400, and the point of this reactions are at 0.3 and 0.3 equidistant, and 0.3 and 0.3 from both ends. Now, this is one type of problem you need to solve, right? When this is balanced, there is no failure. It is not going to break, or his hand is not going to break, right? He is still balancing. He is not getting fatigue or creep or any other type of failure in his um, action. It is going to be balanced, then it is still be hanging and then lifting up to the height that is required and so on. He can do it as long as it is balanced. So what does it mean? When this is 400 coming, he must supposed to act 400 and 400 at each ends, then it is balanced. Another way of loading is the same load is when the same load is changed to a kind of a twist or a rotation or a, what do you call, a couple equal to 120 newtons at the ends. So you multiply force into distance is moment at this point. If you calculate moment at this point, 400 into 0.3 is 120, right? 400 into 0.3 is 120 already. The other way of giving the loading to this point is 400 into 0.3 gives you 120 newton meter. So the same thing can be applied in terms of a couple at this point, right? And couple at this point, and then analyze it, right? This is one way of doing. If the same problem is analyzed this way, then it is called as pure bending. Pure bending. You are giving pure, this taking only bending load. The corresponding bending stress and other things have to be analyzed accordingly. That is the meaning of, the way of solving it. Alright, the spelling. Always engineers never bother about spelling. End up with mistake. Right? So the other way of solving this problem is taking this as the pure bending and then solve this. Right? So written here, the bar carries equal weights and then equal reaction is applied by this gentleman, so it is balanced. The reactions at the hands must be equal and opposite to the weights. The pair of forces at the ends of the bars can be replaced by an equivalent moment. The middle portion of the bar is in pure bending, right? Yeah. Initially, we have this type of loading, and you say there is a force reaction, right? Inside is a reaction, and then you can, if you find the shear force, you can do it. Bending one also you can draw. You may have a nice plot like this, right? And then the same thing can be analyzed for a pure bending, because we don't want at times we want to know only what is the bending due to this one and address the issue of bending, right? So you convert this into a couple, then analyze this in a simple way to find out where is the compression, where is the tension, where there ought to be increase or decrease. All this analysis can be attended just by having a couple alone, right? Next type of loading and the reactions will be the shear and moment functions must be determined for each region of the beam between any two discontinuous loadings, right? The coordinates x1, x2, and x3 have to be used to describe the variation of shear force and bending moment throughout the length. Okay, yeah. And the same point I was repeated, how it is determined is written here. See here, there is a beam, a pin joint here, a roller here, and then a overhanging portion here. A load is acting on it. It may be a partition. You can imagine to be a terrace floor. This is the building, and it is a portico. And you have a terrace and the wall surrounding the terrace. There is a partition wall. There is a wall constructed to 1 meter or 1.5 meters high. That load is acting at this point, isn't it? That load is acting on this point, and the two, sometimes there is maybe a live load, people coming here and standing here, view, and that kind of loading is also acting at this point. All kind of loading that is acted where there is no support needs to be designed properly for this overhanging type of structure. And then in this case, there is a point load here. Imagine there's a man is standing here, and there is some load here, right? They may be storing something here in a triangular fashion. The load is not uniformly distributed, varying, but in a triangular fashion. Smaller, smaller, bigger, bigger, and to a great level at this point. So it's a triangular loading. In this case, you may not find a definite diagram, a circle, in a parabolic or a straight line or a triangle one. You may determine wherever it is required by following, analyzing in one dimension direction at different points, say x1, x2, x3, and so on. It can be solved by this. You will see one by one by taking an example, then it's much easier for you to understand. It is not a linear type of loading, and so the response is not non-linear. So you have to go by section to analyze what happens at this point, what is the shear force on the corresponding bending moment, what is the shear force on bending moment, what is the shear force at median point, and so on. Wherever you need, you mark the x value, start from one end, go until that point, you are able to find it out. These are things you might have done in your dynamics, but we are going to work together with the bending stress. Pure bending, again, prismatic members subjected to equal and opposite couples acting in the same longitudinal plane. Okay, you see here, if it is a prismatic member, what is prismatic member? Cross section is same all over, right? Cross section is same all over from start to end of the beam. If it is 10-meter beam, should be similar from start to end. Then it's a prismatic member subjected to equal and opposite couples acting in the same longitudinal plane. Yeah. As long as the cross section is not varying, you may get more or less similar pattern of the distribution. We will see with the example. I can explain this part. Another type. Shear is obtained by summing up forces perpendicular to the beam axis up to the end of the segment. Yeah. In the graphical things, we plot only the points of so much forces, right? So much newtons, right? And this is giving you the linear dimension or length of the beam, starting from 0 to 3, 10. If it is 10 until 10, it is given, right? In that case, if you want the total amount, it just add up individually or integrate from this to this. If you know this one, the function of this, if you can fit the curve for this one, the equation, get the equation of this curve, integrate from this limit to this, x equal to 0 to x equal to 10. Say for example, the beam is of length 10. By integrating from here to here, integration means what? Adding part by part. You just add, simple addition can give you total shear force acting on this. If it is a non-linear type, like a curvilinear, not even linear, a curving type, a parabolic type. For parabolic, you need an equation, like what is Wx. And then moment is obtained by summing moments about an end of the segment. Yeah. Note the sign conventions are opposite when the summing process are carried out with opposite direction. Yes. This is important. When number one is shear force, right? In both cases, when you do the summing, see the curve, whether it's always all along the positive direction or all along the negative direction. Accordingly, you solve. Same goes to moments. Moments also you must mind the sign convention. The moments can be obtained by summing a moments from. It is following the axis. Okay, you have to fix the axis at this point or this point, about which you can calculate. If you want the moment, right? If you want the total moment, you can fix the axis at this end or at this end. Once you fix the axis at this end, calculate the moment from other end until you reaches this axis, right? About this axis, you are able to get the bending moment. Vice versa. If you want the moment, you fix the axis at this point, start calculating from this end, and then reach until the other end so that you will finish your total moment. I will show a nice video how this distance here, this one, how this distance is contributing to the moment. There is a nice video which can explain you really a nice demonstration what is bending moment, how the Distance is matter in the case of, or lever arm is matter in the case of bending moment. I will show you in a while. Let me finish the theory. So do you understand? Summing of moment and summing of shear force. Summing of shear force is a simple addition, right? If it is a rectangular box, simple addition. Simple addition. If this is your axis, shear force axis, and then you draw like this, it's a simple addition. But if it is a parabolic, right, it's a curve. It's a curve. Then get the equation of the curve or integrate this axis over the limit, you will get it. For moments, for getting moments, you have to resolve the forces and the moments, right? Find out the reactions. You must be complete. All the reactions should be completed, and then start calculating from one end, reach the other end to find the total moment acting on that beam by following the formula, right? Okay, next is a sign convention. The positive directions are as follows. The distributed load acts upward on the beam. The internal shear forces causes clockwise rotation, and the beam, one moment, of the beam section on which it acts. The internal moment causes compression in top fibers and segment such that it bends the segment so that it holds water. Loadings that are opposite to this are considered negative. Okay, you're saying hogging and sogging. Right. In this page, you have to remember the sign convention. Always we take the shear force upward as positive and downward as negative, and then hogging, sagging. This is sagging, this is hogging. Sag, it's like a coney bag, sag. Sag means like this, it is positive. Having some, can store something, right? It's a pool like. It's like a pool, can store something, that's why it's called as sagging positive. Sagging positive. The moments, in terms of moments, we call this as sagging, and this as hogging. H-O-G-G-I-N-G, hogging. Hogging is taken as negative. And let's see what are the things in the following slides can explain you more in detail where the sagging, where the hogging, and how they are defined as, what type of member they are, and how to design them. Okay, right. Remember the sign convention while doing your analysis and drawings. Procedure, how are you going to do it? Simple. Please answer me. Have you done this bending moment and shear force diagram before? If I'm repeating anything basic, please stop me. Answer me. Have you done this bending moment shear force diagrams before?
I don't think so.
Well, I don't think so. Don't think so. Not okay. Then I do all the things for you. I mean, fundamentals and also some examples. If you have done, I can jump to stress analysis directly. If not, we do the shear force bending one first, and then we go for stresses. Come on. What happened to one gentleman? Where is he? See more. Let me check who is absent today. Hello here. One gentleman is missing. I don't know who is it. Kairan is here. Tian Supe is here. Who is absent? Limri thing is here. Limrong is not here. Okay. Attend all classes. I'm making it very simple so that you can understand. I'm not teaching very hi-fi or advanced way that you get complicated already. Right? It's a simple procedure. Receipt line. It was there in your textbook also. You can follow. How to find the shear force and bending moment diagram. Having given this loading type and the supporting conditions, how to determine it. Let me take this one. Right. Determine the reactive forces. Number one, once the question is given to you for analyzing your shear force and bending moment or plotting shear force and bending, I request you to plot in, although it is asked or not, whenever the questions are given to you, please do plot it. I think I also given the last time one question for shear force. I will check how many of you have done. Simple one. Determine all the reactive forces. First understand the reactions and the moments, whether the moments are directly given or you need to calculate on the beam, and resolve all the forces into components acting perpendicular to, and this is the statement, I don't like it. Actually what you do here, you will be doing applying this equilibrium equations and compatibility equation to solve these support reactions. That is what you do here. The very first you use equilibrium equation. What are the equilibrium equations? Come on. Number one step is to find support reaction, right? What are the equilibrium equations you have? Quickly. For 2 dimension, 3 dimension, right? What you do? All forces, summation of all forces equal to 0. Equilibrium equation. Summation of all forces should be equal to 0. Another one is summation of all moments equal to 0. If it is in 3 dimension, you have to go by x, y, z. Isn't it? 6 equations will be there. So either you follow these kind of equilibrium equations to solve, and then, or otherwise compatibility equation. Compatibility equation means about the material property. You may be given the factor of safety, you may be given all the forces, or I mean all the, what do you call, the ultimate stress. Ultimate stress is so much. Compatibility properties are given to you. Based on that clue, you can determine this unknown. Now, shear force moment function. Once you know the reactions, you can move on calculating your shear forces and moment. Specify separate coordinates x having an origin. Yeah, you must know whether it's a 1 dimension or 2 dimension, right? In frames, always a 2 dimension. Frames means it will have loading horizontal direction, vertical direction. Automatically, you will have reactions in vertical and horizontal directions. Most of the calculations in this chapter will be mostly analyzing in 1 dimension, right? Which is having always loading in vertical direction, not horizontal direction. Okay, not horizontal direction. Okay, I think I will check mostly for to start with in the learning chapters. For shear force and bending moment, we give only uh, loading perpendicular to the beam, which is in 1 direction, no horizontal acting. Actually, see, whenever there is a loading in horizontal or vertical, there is a response by the member, right? But whichever is significant, we will design for it. But now we are taking the vertical loading as a significant load, analyze the member. Come on. So shear force and bending moment you will determine. It's interesting story. It's like mathematics. When you start learning, when you start working out, you will learn it. I will explain how to do that by an example. You start with a free body diagram. You have to obtain the summing. No need this summing and all. When you plot the diagram, you will automatically know the values. To eliminate V, the moment is obtained directly by summing moments about sectional end of the segment. Yeah. This one also I will explain well with the example how we are going to determine the total shear forces and bending moment, or sometimes additional question will be there to find the maximum moment, maximum force, and so on. Plot the shear diagram, right? V versus X. This is what we are doing in your diagram. If you're plotting like this, means what? V versus, this is V and this is X, right? X. Oh, sorry. This is X. So you are plotting between V and X. V and X. So remember, that is what V versus X. And then a moment diagram, moment versus S. If it is moment, then this value will be, the value will be moment like this. Moment versus X, right? If numerical values of the functions describing V and M are positive, always remember the sign convention. I will explain, make it one. I don't want to repeat. Let me see how I have worked out in the question, then we'll follow the same sign convention to understand, right? Any one side should be positive, another one should be negative. And I think I follow the graphical things for the shear force, which is positive on top, negative on the bottom, and the reverse is for bending moment, so that you can remember well. We will see in the calculations. Lastly, generally it is convenient to show the shear force and bending moment diagram below your free body diagram. Yes, I saw some students drawing without the member. You need to put the member first. You need to draw the member first. Otherwise, for which you are referring, that is important. You draw the member first and then go by the length from one end to another end. By throughout the length from one point to point, you can draw the diagram for shear force and bending moment. You cannot be you drawing without this. What is a reference, right? You need a reference to what you are drawing, to which member you are drawing. Hence, you follow by free body diagram. Don't draw any free body diagram without this. One moment. One moment is I get a call. Just hold on 1 minute. Okay. Symmetric member in pure bending. For pure, she's calling again. One moment, sir. Okay. You can see the slide, right? Yeah. It's clear. For pure bending, the internal forces in any cross-section are equivalent to a couple. The moment of the couple is the section bending moment, right? Yeah. The response, when you take, if it is a symmetric member, I already told you what is symmetric member. When you cut at any section, it will be showing a equal half or similar half on both sides, right? The when you cut anywhere, anywhere here, you may cut here, you may cut here, right? When you cut at this section, it will show a equal half, right? Similar section. When you cut, the cutting section will show equal half on both sides. In that case, the response of the member for overcoming load, right? Superimposed will be almost same, not much varying. And so you have a symmetric couple on both sides. Because they are symmetric, your moments acting on both sides will also be a symmetric one, or equivalent couples are acting. As long as the member is symmetric, you can still have a symmetric moment acted upon by due to an superimposed load. Okay. This in a while. Let me complete some more slides. Symmetric member in pure bending. Yeah. How to analyze symmetric member? This is showing the cross section. We are at the cross section because it is the load is acting on top. How the internal member behaves, where is the compression, where is the tension, we can find out by analyzing a cross section like this. Normally we will take this as a small elemental area, because to know the distribution, start from a small elemental area, analyze in three different directions. One moment. Differentiation here. I'll show in a different video how we are going to analyze this member. Okay, hold on. Open another file. We are going to study about how to derive an equation for a flexural formula. Hold on. Maybe I do the equation in the next class because I want to give some more introduction and examples for the bending moment first, then we go for flexure formula. Flexure formula means it's involving bending stress. Let's do some calculations on shear force and bending moment first. Let me take the calculation first. Um, okay. Take this question. I share this one. Can you please take this question? We are going to solve this question now. One moment. Okay, I share the screen now. Very simple one. I start with a very simple one for your understanding. This question. Can you all see the overall the types of beams and so on? So we can call this as a cantilever beam or simply supported beam. These are the free body diagram given here. Fixed means supported at both ends. Overhanging means it may be a pin or just a roller or a pin, and then some portion is left free. Continuous, this is the most common one which civil engineer have to live with. They will be working on continuous beam, because if you take a frame, it will have a continuous beam like this. I'll also show a diagram, which is nice diagram, which has distribution of all these shear force and bending one. So it may be a pin, and then another pin or roller. You will have three members jointly, 1, 2, and 3. Three members continuously supported. Sometimes it may be ends are fixed, right? Ends are fixed with a thick wall. Normally in buildings, the end walls are about 1 foot, I say 1 foot or less. The thickness of the wall will be 1 foot or less, about 20 to 30 mm the size. Okay, sorry, yeah, so centimeter, 20 to 30 centimeter they will build. All the internal will be internal frames will be the partitions. Consider partitions will be 10 to 12 or 10 centimeter they maintain. In that case, it will be and then foundation. When you talk about the foundation, these ends are form into a pile foundation or a strong foundation, and all others are just sitting on the basement or plinth beam, and these are all sitting on top of a proper foundation. Then it is called as a fixed end. In that case, the analysis will be considered as a continuous beam with a fixed end and pin. Okay. Okay. Now, and the point load may be something like these. It may be a load. You see here the point load. If it is of one room or one condominium with the different layers like 10 floors, one room or two rooms, or a small one block. If you analyze, take it as a one block which is having different floors, and the load acting at this point on the ground will be considered to be a point load. Then the foundation design all will be taking this point load to design their member. And these ends maybe fixed or maybe just kept on floor, working on the floor or ground. Uniformly, all of you know that uniformly distributed will be given a value of W kilonewton per meter. W or some value of P or W, some newtons over unit length, right? Per meter, and how much is the value. If it is UDL, the load is distributed, the value is written like this: W over unit length, W per meter. What is the value per meter is given to you. Like if I write 10 kilonewton over meter, every meter is a 10 kilonewton acting. If you want over, you have to add, right? So total, and this total is supposed to be acting at the center for a symmetric body. It will be acting at the center. That is why when you calculate, you cannot handle as it is. You may change to point load, saying that W times the L and WL is acting at the middle, then you calculate the shear force and bending moment. Same goes to varying load, maybe of this type or this type. Varying load from 0 to maximum at the other end or maximum to 0 at the end. These are the other types of loading as well. The loading, varying load maybe if you take uh, the developments, property developments like these, they may have some blocks here, right? Block A, block B, with some facilities here and some facilities here. Another maintenance office or some kind of TNB, right? The Tinaha National or water tank. All these things can be of different type of loading acting on a particular ground. In that case, you will know what is the type of loading acting on it by analyzing from end to end. If you want to know, if you have to analyze the whole structure in the manually or by using software, you need to consider, take the line sketch, calculate the loadings at each and every point, and then the support condition, take the support condition, find the reactions using the equilibrium equations or by means of software, then apply uh, the frame for analysis to find the unknowns like bending moment, shear force, deflection, angle of deflection, couples, sometimes there's a couple, right, and so on, right. Coming to this, I already explained to you, you may have to take this as a hogging and this as sagging, a sag, coni sag, which can contain something, right. Sag is a material, I mean bag that can contain something, right. It's like a sagging, means a convex type. This is concave, convex, right. You see here cantilever. Let's take this calculation. Can you do it? Come on. Can you do and get me the answer? The simple one I have given. A cantilever beam. All of you take it sportively. Get me the answer. I have given a. If not, just listen to Miller number one. I do it myself. It's simple one. I think everyone can do it. Fixed support and a free end. And the free end is subjected to 100 newtons. Maybe it may be the wall, it may be the person standing, or it may be any decorative item that they put at the corner of the uh, portico wall, roof, right? Of length 3 meter, the length is 3 meter. Come on, assume then number one, you have to follow the rules. Show force diagram. What is it? Positive downward. One moment. How do I take it? Positive upward. I have to correct here. One moment, I correct here. Positive upward shear force, negative downward, positive upward shear force. And then bending moment, hogging and sagging. Sagging as positive, hogging as negative. Consider these convention and then proceed. What you have? You are given with a loading at A 100, left hand to right handed side to B is 100 Newton. At the right hand side, these are 100 Newtons. And then B, one moment, I think these are all not needed. Okay, colloquially speaking, right. In the very first is to draw the free body diagram and then find out the reactions. Because it is fixed support, you will have a reaction, isn't it? Later I will bring you a table. There is a table saying that where you will have reaction, where you will not have reactions, and even the values are also given. I don't know whether these are all covered in your dynamics. Anyway, I will bring the chart for you for a certain. I think I have included in my slides. If not, I will repeat in the next class. Let me see this one first, very beginning. There is a big page with all the types of beams, types of support, types of loading and the reaction. Okay, there are standard formulas you can use adapt. In this case, let's apply our logic now. Because it's fixed, there will be a reaction. You know what is reaction, right? That day I show you a video, very nice video. What is reaction, right? One gentleman was doing the loading at the middle and the reactions at the support are observed by a balance. Means what? That is some kind of load added. Initially it was 0 an amount of some amount is added in the opposite direction. You cannot view, but you can see and observe and realize there is an incremental loading at the ends when it is loaded at the middle. Do you remember the video, the one I showed at the very beginning, or I repeat once again? To understand and accept, yes, there is a reaction either by loading or by fix. It depends on that day it was due to the loading and the ends are simply supported. That's why they had the reaction. Do you need the video to be repeated to show how the reactions are produced? There was a demo. Do you need it? I don't know why no response.
Or you show us the link, please.
Video you remember, right? Once again, okay, one moment. Before the video, let me finish this slide. Okay, so many classes. Where is it? Which one? Correct, I'm here. Right. I will show the video, don't worry. I show together the reaction and moment together. Very interesting one. Now let me solve this first. For now, you just accept because Ramani Boy said you have to accept the reaction is there. Fixed support will have, if no fix, you will have reaction only, but because fixed, it will have one reaction and also a couple. It tends to return because of the loading. The member will try to rotate. The couple are reaction moment or a couple will be produced. But never mind now. We are now finding out the shear force. Taking this, there we are. From right hand to left, right hand to B. From this end to assume this. Take the cross section here and the section here. Assume the section here XX. Let's start from the right hand side. All the loads, resolve all the moments about this point. Okay, resolve all the moments about this point by applying this sigma m equal to 0. When you apply initially sigma m equal to 0, sigma m equal to 0, you just apply this sigma m is equal to 0. You start from A. From A it is 100 times, how much is this? 0, isn't it? 100, yeah, this loading into this is down clockwise or positive, anti-clockwise. 100 is clockwise or anti-clockwise. Keep the clock at this point. Okay, keep the clock at this point. Keep the clock here. What will be the rotation of 100? Is it clockwise or anti-clockwise? Quickly, clockwise or anti-clockwise? Answer long.
Clockwise.
Clockwise, because 12, 3, 6, 9, right? Clockwise, positive. Moving on, there is a reaction here, isn't it? That is a reaction here. So due to this loading, right? Due to this loading, it will try to rotate in this direction, right? The member will try to rotate in opposite direction to restrain it or react against this moment. So in that case, the RB is positive upward, right? RB positive upward. Upward is positive, right? RB, I keep it as RB, right? And then is there any other reaction moment acting on it? Nothing else, right? No, moment. We are resolving moments, right? Only the MB. What is this moment? MB, not reaction. Moment. You are solving for the moments. MB equal to 0. So when you say MB, it will be the negative of these two, 300. So I got the answer for MB as the 300 as the moment. So when you mark here, the moment will be, where is the moment? Oh, I already solved here. Okay, go here. Positive or negative moment? Positive or negative? We just now solve for moment. This control is like this. One moment. Okay, like here. So from the diagram itself, either you use the common sense to write the values because it's only one value you can easily write down, or otherwise follow by calculation, follow the equilibrium conditions to answer. In this case, there is a loading at this point, so automatically it should be balanced by Rx. That's why I written here directly Rx is equal to 100 newtons. Where is it? Rx equal to 100 Newton. When there is Rx acting in this way, there should be another Rx equal to balance out. So you have the value until this one is, actually it is supposed to be 100 and then plus 100 will be reaching 0 at this point. Okay, this is how shear force is done. And for bending moment, when you come to bending moment, start from here, this end, from A, force into distance is this, right? For loading, you don't have to worry about. And then for C, at this point C, it is force into distance. Force into distance is, it's about A. It's about A. This value is taken, I write down here about A. The value is taken about, the axis is about A. When you calculate it, at A is 0. At C, from here to here, right? Force into distance. How much is the distance? You calculate it. One moment. What is going on? I think it's wrong. One moment. Yeah, correct only. Towards this one. Not about A. We are moving one by one. We are moving part by part. I didn't resolve at one point. We are doing part by part. So at A, due to the loading is this one. At C, the value of the load due to this load, value of moment at the couple at C due to 100 will be 100 times the distance. And then moving on, I reduce the size so that I can finish all in this. Right. After this is at D, due to this loading, it will be load into the total distance. Load into total distance. Total distance is 2. From here, from D to this point is 2. So I have done this part. And then at B, coming to B, force into distance. Force into the whole distance is 3. So we have what is called 300. Done. Part by part we calculated. And then you plot it, right? 0 here, 0 here. Because it's a reverse. All the, what type of moment is it? Hogging or sagging? For cantilever, due to this loading, hogging or sagging? This type is hogging or sagging?
Oh.
Hogging, right? Hogging. If load is acting in this direction, it is sagging, a bag like hogging until this point. So negative, hogging is negative. So I plot the negative top. It's a reverse of shear force to show differentiation. So I plot the negative on top for bending moment. It's for bending moment, BMD diagram. We follow the reverse sign convention, which is negative. So I plot above the axis the value of 300. Okay, we have to plot part by part, like what is the value here, value here. That's why it's written here. Starting from 0 at A, growing 100, 200 and reaching 300 at this point, negative. Okay, with that we can solve for the shear force and bending moment diagrams for this. This is the shear force diagram. This is a shear force diagram for a point load for a cantilever beam, and the bending moment diagram for shear a cantilever beam with a point load. Coming to the UDL, come on, look at the UDL, similar procedure. There is a fixed end, there is a UDL, and distances are given to you. Assume the shear forces, why it is always wrongly written there? Positive, maybe typo, right? We consider shear force acting upward positive, downward negative. With that we can calculate one by one. Come on, start calculating the shear force. It's done clearly here. Starting from this section, D at D. Remember only forces, don't worry about the moment. Forces at this point at D is 0. Moving on, there is a UDL, right? I already told you how you have to calculate. It is per meter run is given. You need to know the full load, complete load first. Just remind here at D is 0, right? At D is 0. And then coming to C, it's written here. It's C, the load will be the rate times the 2, right? When you separately take this CD, the distance is 2, so you have to multiply 10 times to 2, which will be 20. 20 will be acting like this. It is similar to this one. You can represent in this way, right? When you change to point load, it will be acting at the center for this particular component. For this particular component like this, okay? Hence, I have how much load acting at this point. See, for member CD, it will be 20. Actually, I have to make it as a CD. It is CD, not at C, CD. But it goes up to C. That's why I written C. And then coming to B, right? This portion. I again separately take this one. CD, B, 1 meter, and this is 2 meter, right? Until B is 1 meter. Between B and C is 1 meter. Between C and D is 2 meters. So you calculate all together because it's the same load acting. So just multiply the load times the distance, you get 30 newtons. So you will have the center portion of the BD will be acted upon by 30 newtons, followed by A. A is over here at this point. The whole load times the whole distance, the entire distance. So when you multiply A to D, it will be 10 times the whole distance, the length of the member itself, which is 6 Newton. So at A, it should be reaching 60, or it is acting in this way. In other words, you can represent the free body diagram of the point load. Change in terms of the point load, it will show like this. A to D will be acted upon by 60 newtons at the center. And then let's find out the drawing. That's drawing. See, when you start drawing, it will be 0 here. Moving on, it will be increasing, slowly increasing, because there's a loading started, right? Loading started. It will be increasing to how much? 20 at this point, right? It will be increasing to 20 at this point. As the distance growing, the value is growing, right? Here it may be 0.5. So 0.5 times the load. 1 times the load, 1.5 times the load, 2 times the load. So keep on increasing because it's only one load acting, right? If there is any point load interfering, then automatically the shape of the diagram will be changing. You need to account for that point load as well. So slowly increasing, and you come here, again another type of loading, and the distance is varying. Hence it keep on increasing until it reaches, because the distance is increasing for the given load. So you can draw the shear force diagram in this way for a UDL with a simple one I started with. Okay, let's see second question. Here's the second question. This one, okay. So we calculated the shear force from one end to another, simply adding the loads, right? Simply adding the loads by converting them into a point load. Point load here, point load here, point load here, like you end at the distances. Now, coming to bending moment diagram. For the same, if you plot the bending moment diagram, it will be like this. Either way, you can do it like there are different two ways. You just adapt part by part, or follow the free. You take the free body diagram, apply the equilibrium conditions to find the reactions, or assume one side, right? Assume a cross section at one side. Take the moment about that axis. That is also one way. This is another way. For first understanding, for initial understanding, we do it this way. Bending moment to start with, to find the bending moment for this UDL, given the length of 6 meter from A to D, and the distances are given B, C, D. It's only the point, maybe a column here, column here, column here, and a last column here. It may be a nodal point wherein you need to know the moment. That's why they are given the BC. Otherwise, a throat, it's a beam of 6 meter. Consider to be beam of 6 meter acted upon by a UDL. You need to consider that way, right? Start here, D, no distance. Bending moment is always force into distance. Remember this formula, force into distance, force into the lever arm, right? Start from here, no distance. At this point, no distance, only load just started, only. After D, section after D, the value will start growing. How much is it? But at D is 0, right? And after D, section after D, the value will grow how much is it? Next moving to C, it will be gradually increasing, but at C if you want, it is force into distance. Calculate the force into distance. This is the force, right? This is the force. This is the force, right? This is the force acting on it, because UDL, you convert it into point load times the distance, right? The distance will be, see here, the distance will be 1 meter. Distance will be 1 meter. At C, it will be 1 meter. At C, it will be 1 meter acting. So we multiply by 1 between this section. So the load is acting 1 meter. And then go to B. From B, at B, this is the value. Whole distance is 3, right? Multiply by 3, you will have the load. And at the middle, when you convert into a point load, it will be acting at the middle. That's why I have to take 3 divided by 2, which will be 1.5. 1.5, which will be 1.5. And then I get the moment at B. Going to A, total, overall. Take the load, complete load, which is 10 times 6. The member is 6, so it will be acting at the middle, right? Middle will be 6 divided by 2, it will be 3. So I get the moment at A. Now you can conveniently plot the diagram like this. Where's the diagram? Where's the diagram? One moment. And that's all. One moment. Where is the diagram? I think I plotted already. Or can you draw it? Bending moment diagram for this? Can you try? Where is it? It's already time. One moment. Let me finish the drawing. I cannot stuck already my paper. Okay, I stop here. I'll continue the next class. Read. It's not coming. One moment. Let me try. The line is coming. Oh, it's got. I think I drew bending moment diagram somewhere. Okay, we'll draw it now. Draw below this one. This is the beam. You need to follow the bending moment diagram. You draw the axis first, right? Draw the axis first. Sorry, I consider to be a straight line. Start from number 1 is 0, right? 0. 20 is positive or negative? Come on, at C, 20 is positive or negative? Please help me. 20 is positive, mean hogging and sogging, or you can take it to be clockwise or anti-clockwise. Clockwise positive, anti-clockwise. Assume the clock is over here. Keep the clock over here. Due to 10, at C it will be clockwise or anti-clockwise. Quickly. It will be clockwise. Take it as positive, positive downward. So I mark here. C value is 20 here, right? And then moving on to 45. It is not linear. See the 1 meter. 0.5. See if it is a straight line in your where is it? This one. If it is an inclined line, it will be a parabola. If it is a straight line, it will be a inclined line in bending moment. That way also you can understand. Moreover, it's a UDL, so it should be a parabola. Come on. At B, how much is it? 45, somewhere here. Also positive, right? Because all going like this. All like this. Moment. Your clock is here. Your clock is here. Clock with a 12, 3, 6, and 9 here. So all clockwise. So I take it as positive. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know why you are silent. And then after 45 is 180 at A. 180 at A. So it's all parabola, right? And then because it's fixed moment, it should be equal to the couple already there, which is 180 in the opposite direction. Then it will move, it will join with 0, it will reach 0. So accordingly, the curve will be something like this. Okay, the line will be something like this. This is the bending moment diagram for the given loading. positive, right? Positive hogging, sagging moment. Okay. So if you want, you can write the values here and there. It is 180 positive, but because of the fixed end, it will reach another 180 here. So 180 minus 180 will be 0 here. I cannot write clearly. I will write clearly and send to you in the CNN. You can follow later. Okay. And then at this point is 45. At this point is 20, and this is 0. So like that you can plot the Bennington and Schiff's diagram and try it. You have just started with 2 simple questions. Later we'll solve other questions, and with some videos I will explain to you in the next class. I stop here. Any question you can ask me. If no question, you can leave. See you next week. Next class. With I try to give you the marks by next class. I want to finish it, but there are too many deadlines before. Let me complete, and then I don't take more than a week, because you should also get updated on your feedback for the test. It's important for you. Okay. I try to provide by Friday or weekend, Sunday. Okay. Bye bye. Take care.